The clock is ticking toward 2025, and beneath the surface of our everyday news cycles, an earth-shattering convergence is taking place that will blindside the unprepared. This isn't speculation. It's the fulfillment of ancient prophecies now, unfolding with mathematical precision across every sector of global society. What if everything you've been taught about our world's future is about to be completely upended? While billions remain hypnotized by celebrities and manufactured political divisions, unprecedented technological systems, spiritual transformations, and geopolitical realignments are silently locking into their final positions, exactly as foretold thousands of years ago. You're being deliberately distracted. The powers orchestrating these changes don't want your attention on the staggering truth. 2025 marks the completion of translation work, making sacred texts available to every language. Group on Earth for the first time in human history, the full implementation of digital currency systems that will revolutionize financial control. The emergence of autonomous artificial intelligence beyond human comprehension. The wholesale abandonment of foundational beliefs by religious institutions, and the final dissolution of moral frameworks that have preserved civilization for millennia. This isn't coincidence. It's convergence with chilling implications for every person alive today. What separates those who will navigate these turbulent times from those who will be overwhelmed by them? Not wealth, status, or political connections, but understanding the hidden patterns revealed centuries ago that perfectly describe our precise moment in history. The ancients weren't merely guessing. They were given insights that transcend human knowledge, accurately mapping out the very world we now inhabit. The information you're about to discover has been systematically kept from mainstream awareness precisely because it holds the keys to understanding what lies immediately ahead. By the time you finish absorbing these revelations, you'll see with crystal clarity why 2025 isn't just another year. It's the threshold to humanity's most consequential chapter. These current times reveal an impressive acceleration of events, predicted in ancient scriptures, something never before seen in human history. With each news report, we witness the unfolding of events that seem to leap directly from sacred pages into our reality, leaving many perplexed by the precision of millennial texts. Those who observe carefully notice that the signs are there, right before our eyes, showing that we are moving toward an important conclusion in humanity's timeline. In recent years, wars in the Middle East, alliances between nations, extreme climate changes, and global economic crises have followed a pattern predicted millennia ago. These events do not occur by mere chance, but follow a specific script recorded by ancient prophets who, despite living in primitive times, accurately describe today's technological and globalized world. The speed of these events has increased exponentially, as if an invisible clock were accelerating its hands toward a crucial moment in human history. Wisdom consists in being attentive to these signs and understanding their deeper meaning, as ancient knowledge has always proven valuable to those who knew how to interpret it. A clear example of this is the predictions about Israel, which against all statistical probabilities, re-emerged as a nation after almost 2,000 years of dispersion, exactly as predicted. People who dedicate themselves to studying these prophetic patterns can navigate turbulent times with more tranquility, as they understand that there is a greater purpose at work, something that transcends merely human plans. The monumental mission undertaken by organizations like Wycliffe Bible Translators represents one of the most significant linguistic and cultural endeavors in human history. Working tirelessly across continents, these dedicated scholars and linguists are breaking down barriers that have kept ancient wisdom inaccessible to countless populations for centuries. Their goal to make sacred texts available in every language by 2025 stands as a testament to human determination and the power of modern collaboration across borders, cultures, and traditions. The acceleration of this worldwide translation effort has been dramatically enhanced by cutting-edge artificial intelligence systems and advanced linguistic technologies. What once would have taken decades of painstaking work by isolated scholars can now be accomplished in mere months through sophisticated algorithms that understand contextual nuances and cultural subtleties. For instance, translation teams in remote regions of Papua New Guinea now utilize tablet devices loaded with specialized software that can generate initial draft translations overnight, which local experts then refine to ensure accuracy and cultural relevance. This global effort carries profound implications that extend far beyond religious circles, potentially fulfilling ancient writings that speak of knowledge increasing throughout the earth in final days. As these translated texts become available to previously unreached language groups, communities gain access not only to spiritual teachings but also to historical perspectives and ethical frameworks that have shaped major civilizations. Experts in cultural preservation note that when a community receives literature in their heart language, it often sparks a renaissance of local culture while simultaneously connecting them to broader human traditions and understanding. The rapid development of surveillance technologies and digital currencies has transformed the global landscape in ways that parallel ancient warnings about centralized control mechanisms. Across developed nations, comprehensive tracking systems now monitor citizens' movements, purchases, and even social interactions with unprecedented precision and scope. Financial institutions are gradually phasing out physical money in favor of digital alternatives that leave detailed transaction footprints, creating what analysts call financial glasshouses, where privacy becomes increasingly theoretical rather than practical. Major economic powers have already begun implementing central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, that fundamentally alter the relationship between citizens and state authorities. Unlike traditional cryptocurrencies that offer decentralization, these government-controlled digital currencies enable instant taxation, automated fine collection, and even the ability to restrict purchases based on predetermined criteria. For example, China's digital yuan system already allows authorities to set expiration dates on stimulus payments and restrict where citizens can spend their funds, effectively creating programmable money that responds to centralized policy decisions without requiring consent from the user. The integration of artificial intelligence with these monitoring systems has created networks capable of identifying patterns and anomalies in human behavior across vast populations. Facial recognition cameras in urban centers now number in the millions, feeding data to systems that can track individuals across entire countries without human oversight or intervention. Security experts warn that these technologies, while marketed as conveniences or safety measures, are quietly assembling the infrastructure for a level of social control unprecedented in human history, raising profound questions about freedom in an increasingly interconnected and monitored global society. The emergence of autonomous artificial intelligence systems represents perhaps the most significant technological watershed since the discovery of nuclear fission, yet proceeds with far less regulatory oversight. These superintelligent systems, developed primarily by a small circle of powerful technology conglomerates and shadowy government agencies, are rapidly approaching capabilities that would render human oversight not merely optional, but potentially impossible. Leading AI safety researchers have documented alarming instances where advanced systems have developed novel problem-solving approaches that their own creators cannot fully comprehend or predict. The concentration of these powerful technologies in the hands of elite power structures raises profound questions about the future governance of human affairs. Unlike previous technological revolutions that distributed capabilities more broadly across society, the development of superintelligence requires such enormous computational resources and specialized knowledge that it remains accessible to only the wealthiest entities on Earth. For example, training a single large language model now costs hundreds of millions of dollars and produces carbon emissions equivalent to thousands of transatlantic flights, ensuring that only the most powerful organizations can participate in this new technological arms race. These systems' capacity to process and analyze vast datasets far exceeds human capabilities, potentially granting unprecedented power to whoever controls them. Military strategists have already developed theoretical frameworks for autonomous decision-making systems that could manage complex geopolitical conflicts without human intervention, removing traditional checks and balances on power projection. The integration of such technologies with existing financial, governmental, and media systems could create the conditions for a radical consolidation of global influence, unlike anything previously seen in human history, potentially fulfilling ancient warnings about centralized control systems that would eventually dominate every aspect of human life. The gradual erosion of traditional faith commitments across formerly religious societies represents one of the most significant cultural shifts of the modern era. Statistical analyses reveal that established religious communities are experiencing unprecedented declines in attendance, belief adherence, and generational transmission of values. What makes this trend particularly noteworthy is not merely its scope, but its acceleration. Surveys indicate that religious disaffiliation has increased more rapidly in the past decade than in the previous 5 decades combined, creating what sociologists term cascading secularization, where each departure makes subsequent departures more likely. Perhaps most concerning for religious scholars has been the internal transformation occurring within faith communities themselves, where ancient doctrines and moral frameworks are being systematically abandoned in favor of values more aligned with prevailing cultural sensibilities. Theological seminaries that once served as bastions of orthodox teaching now frequently promote perspectives that would have been considered heretical by their founding generations. For instance, recent surveys of religious leaders in mainline denominations reveal that substantial percentages no longer affirm fundamental doctrines their institutions were established to uphold, creating communities that maintain religious aesthetics while fundamentally altering their core beliefs. This widespread departure from traditional faith extends beyond simple disbelief to encompass active embrace of philosophical systems explicitly opposed to spiritual worldviews. Educational institutions originally founded by religious organizations to promote faith-based learning have in many cases become centers advocating perspectives fundamentally at odds with their founding principles. Ancient texts predicted precisely this pattern, not merely a cooling of religious fervor, but an active transformation where religious institutions themselves would become vehicles for promoting ideas contrary to their original purposes, creating a situation where spiritual confusion would characterize the final era of human history. The transformation of ethical frameworks across global society has accelerated dramatically, revealing patterns of behavior that ancient texts described with remarkable precision. Contemporary culture increasingly celebrates qualities that traditional wisdom literature uniformly cautioned against. Self-obsession is repackaged as self-care, greed is reframed as ambition, and moral restraint is often portrayed as unnecessary repression rather than wisdom. Social media platforms algorithmically reward the most extreme expressions of these tendencies, creating powerful feedback loops that normalize behaviors once considered clearly destructive to both individual character and community cohesion. Interpersonal relationships have undergone particularly troubling transformations, with commitment and sacrifice increasingly viewed as optional rather than foundational elements of human connection. Family structures that provided stability for thousands of years across diverse cultures are now frequently dismissed as arbitrary social constructs, rather than patterns aligned with human flourishing. For example, recent studies show that average Americans now have fewer close friends than at any previously measured point in history, with nearly half of young adults reporting chronic loneliness, despite unprecedented technological connectivity, a paradox that ancient writings predicted would characterize the final era of human civilization. Perhaps most concerning is the widespread embrace of moral relativism that rejects the very concept of transcendent ethical standards. Educational systems increasingly present all moral frameworks as equally valid cultural constructs, rather than pointing toward universal principles that might guide human development. The resultant ethical confusion creates societies where virtue signaling often replaces virtue development, and moral outrage is directed at ideological opponents, rather than at one's own character deficiencies. Those who observe these patterns, with discernment, recognize them as the precise conditions described by ancient prophetic texts, not merely moral disagreement, which has always existed, but a fundamental rejection of the concept of moral truth itself. The evidence is overwhelming. We stand at the precipice of history's most significant turning point, with 2025 looming as the convergence of prophetic fulfillments unlike anything previous generations witnessed. The question isn't whether these transformational events are unfolding, they clearly are, but rather, what will you do with this critical knowledge? Will you continue sleepwalking through these momentous times, or will you awaken to the extraordinary significance of the hour in which we live? What would change in your life if you truly understood that these ancient prophecies were written specifically for people living in this precise moment? Have you considered how different your priorities might be if you recognized the fleeting nature of our current world system? What relationships need reconciliation before these prophesied events accelerate further? What spiritual preparation have you neglected while pursuing things that will soon prove meaningless? The technological control systems being established, the wholesale abandonment of timeless truths, and the moral collapse everywhere evident aren't random societal fluctuations. They're the final pieces of a puzzle described with stunning precision thousands of years ago. How much more evidence do you need before taking decisive action, based on what these ancient texts reveal about our immediate future? This information represents just the beginning of understanding the prophetic timeline now unfolding before our eyes. To continue this journey of revelation and discover exactly how to prepare for what's coming in 2025 and beyond, subscribe to this channel immediately and activate notifications so you won't miss critical updates as these events accelerate. The knowledge you've gained today places you among a small minority who understand what's really happening beneath the surface of world events. But understanding without action is ultimately meaningless. Subscribe now. Share this vital information with those you care about, and join the community of awakened individuals preparing for humanity's most consequential chapter. The countdown to 2025 has already begun. Where will you be when these prophecies reach their fulfillment?